If you're a real estate agent and you're tired of cold calling, door knocking, and spending money on ads, then subscribe to this podcast. We discuss leveraging the power of YouTube for your real estate business and how these strategies earned us over $1 million in GCI our first year in real estate. My name is Levi Lascsak and my partner is Travis Plumb. Let's get started. Good. What's up, Craig?
What's up, brother? It's good to see you.
How you doing, man?
Doing great. Happy holidays.
Yes. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, likewise. It's freezing out here in Manhattan.
Oh, is it?
People are dying. It's like -3 out there, but it warms you up, right? How you guys doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, down south, it's pretty reasonable, except at night. We got some crazy freezing temperatures the last couple of days at night, but then it's like, 50, 60 during the day.
Yep. Understood. It's good to see you again, buddy. It's always good when we get together.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see. I'm just gonna, if everybody doesn't mind, just please go on mute, and we'll get this kicked off. A little Christmas observance day training, right? Let's see. I hear a couple of hot mics, so if everybody doesn't mind, just go ahead and mute your mics, and then we always like to open it up for Q&A towards the end. And also you can throw things in the chat as well as we go along, and we'll kind of cover some of that stuff as well. But yeah, we want to just get kicked off and get started here and welcome our special guest today, Mr. Craig Siegel. So Craig was, as you said, he's in the Manhattan area, New York, and the accent to go with it. All right. So, so you'll hear a little bit of that New York twang today. And was a former stockbroker. And then I guess during the pandemic, right, just decided that had a higher calling in life and needed to, help people along in their journey and, transition from, being in working with or working for other people to working for yourself. And then also, helping others find their way as well. We got the opportunity, or I did, to meet Craig couple of months ago. We got to share the stage together at the Ryan Serhant event in Dallas, and then afterwards, after a night of dinner and dancing, well, except the dancing part, we didn't do any dancing. We got the opportunity to go to dinner afterwards as well, hang out, and then himself and Gogo. For those that know Gogo, we'll actually have Gogo on here in a couple of weeks. After dinner, I offered them a ride home. And Gogo was like, she goes, "You have a Bronco?" I was like, "Yeah, I got the Bronco. It's got the soft top on it." And she's like, "Can we put the top down and just cruise? Just cruise." And I was like, "Absolutely." So we put the top all the way back. With the soft top on the Bronco, it comes all the way off, and so I took him cruising around downtown Dallas in the middle of the night, jamming some country songs. And it was funny is because Gogo was like, she's like, "This is my American dream. This is a bucket list item." Because, for her coming from Eastern Europe, from a communist country where everything was in a box, as she puts it, lived in a box, got out and just got to cruise around, listen to some country music. And Craig, also the New Yorker that he was like, "Okay, yeah, the rumors are true about Texans, right?" They got their big cars. Of course, Travis went to dinner too in his big old Texas truck. So got to see the real deal here in Texas. And anyways, we had a good night at dinner, hanging out, having a good time. And then, just been following Craig and watching his journey. Recently engaged as well. Congratulations.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Sir. So yeah, I want to kind of turn it over to you. Did I miss anything? Is there anything else you would like everyone to know about yourself or your journey?
Yeah, so I'll add this to that. I hear a bit of an echo. Hang on one sec. Let's keep this mute. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, that sounds better.
Okay. All right, yeah, so first of all, I had a great time with you in Dallas. That was awesome. Essentially, for me, I was on Wall Street for 13 years. I did stock things for a while. And then I pivoted and started my own company where we provided working capital and loans to businesses all across the country. At that point in my life, when I was a little bit more unenlightened and immature, we got a puppy somewhere?
Is that somebody's? That's not yours?
No, it's not mine.
Okay, let me.
I wish I had a dog right now, but it's on the to-do list.
Oh, yeah. All right. All right, we should
Cool.
be good now. All right.
Yeah. So at that point in my life, a few years back, if I'm being honest with you guys, I measured success by how much money I was making. I found myself in a really dark place a couple of years back. Gotten out of a toxic relationship. My best friend in the world, my dad, had got diagnosed with cancer. My job, although lucrative, wasn't exactly putting a dent in the universe, if I'm being honest. It started to feel like a job. And I got into a pretty dark place. I'm sure we've all been there to some capacity. I just knew I was meant for more in this world. But I felt stuck. And notice how I said I wasn't stuck, but I felt stuck. Fast forward the pandemic, bang, talk about a global awakening for everybody, really. But for me specifically, I looked around and I saw a lot of Netflix and a lot of day drinking, specifically that Tiger show. I was like, that's not going to be me. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't have a structured, organized schedule because I shut down my office. So I made myself available for those creative divine downloads. And I just said, what do I love in this world? And it hit me like that. Ton of bricks. I've been obsessed with personal development for the last 15 years, working on it, building businesses. I started running a bunch of marathons, which was cool. But what if it was more than passion? What if personal development was actually my purpose? And so I asked myself what my gifts are. And spoiler alert, we all have gifts. And if I'm being honest, I could communicate pretty effectively. So I married those two concepts. I said, I don't want to be the next Tony Robbins. I want to be the first Craig Siegel. There's no guarantee that this thing is going to take off. But here's what I can guarantee. If I don't take this shot, if I don't take this swing, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. And if I go back to Wall Street after the lockdown, that's on me. And so I took my shot. Fast forward, within 2 years' time, we have one of the top business podcasts on the planet, sponsored by Dallas's own Mark Cuban, speaking all over the world. 2 weeks ago, we were in Portugal, speaking in front of 70,000, coaching, mastermind, live events. We just signed a huge deal with Wiley Publishing, sold the business on Wall Street, and this is it for me in some capacity. And the irony is I didn't step into this stuff for the money, but unapologetically, as you guys can probably attest to, when you're really passionate about something and you add value, the money ends up being just a byproduct. So I'm making more money now than I did on Wall Street. And one of the things that I really made an emphasis on, and I know Levi has as well, is personal branding. And I went from having no experience in this arena, no connections, nothing, 300 Instagram followers, to really exploding that. And I really leveraged that. And so I'm sure whatever it is that you guys want to talk about here today, personal branding will probably play a role in that. So that's the story from my end in a nutshell, Levi.
Yeah, absolutely. So well, let's just start there and say, how when you had to, reinvent yourself, when you had to get into personal branding, which is something that you hadn't really focused on before, where do you start? How do you start building that personal brand?
Yeah, what an awesome question. So the first and foremost, the best thing to do is to start to think of yourself as a personal brand. Everything that you do should be calculated, right? To some capacity, everything that you post. When you wear something, you're giving off a frequency, right? And back in the day, we probably used to call this a reputation. But nowadays in 2023, being able to leverage a personal branding, start to think of yourself as a personal brand, right? And where do you begin? This is the $1 billion question. And guys, I'll say this right now, what we're about to dive in and talk about, in my opinion, is a 6 or 7 figure strategy session. So I would definitely take some notes. Where do you begin? Well, first and foremost, I imagine you guys already are in a passion industry, but start creating a personal brand vision board. Select images that represent you, your interests, your brand aspirations. I would take those physical images, old school, and mount them on a physical board, or even use a mood board or a scrapbook. And for those of you like, what is this guy talking about? What the hell is a mood board? A mood board is a collection of images, colors, and fonts that perfectly define what a project is all about. And as you continue to do this and have fun with it, you're going to observe the overall themes and stories that emerge. And now you have some data. You can begin to create an outline of your brand narrative based upon the observations. And the best part about this is actually fun, right? Because now you're kind of like finding alignment as to who you really are. Like, what vibe do you want to project and so forth? And the reason why this is so advantageous is because no matter what it is that you guys do, I'm sure at some point you can only knock on doors or put yourself out there so much. At some point you'd like, in a perfect world, for people to come find you, right? Like, how do I work with you? Or how can I do business with you? Or how can I associate myself with you, right? And by building a personal brand, you're sending off a frequency. And now people begin to find, oh, what's Levi up to? I see he does a lot of YouTube stuff. It looks like he's on fire. Let me check out his page. His page makes me feel a type of way. The colors, the videos, the content. Now all of a sudden, that's his branding. If you guys are with me so far, let me see you write I dig in the chats. Oh, we're going to get weird today.
All right, let's get some I digs. There you go.
Allow me to take a quick break to remind you that we have very important links in the description below. If you want the full story of how we closed over $1 million in commissions our first year and over $2.3 million in commissions our second year, check out the first link. Also, you have the link to our #1 Amazon best-selling book, Passive Prospecting. Last, if you enjoy this podcast and you're a giving person, leave a 5-star review, please. Now back to the episode.
Yeah, there you go. Get some of that New York lingo coming out.
That's it. We're going to have fun, guys. Look, at the end of the day, we got to make this fun, right? Because you guys have heard presentations and speaking engagements a million times. What's going to separate me, the way I can add the most value to you guys, if I make you feel some type of way. So I like to have a little bit of fun. And I also may or may not take pride in being the strangest cat you'll ever meet. All right. So now we're starting to formulate a personal brand. We have a vision board. We're putting pictures on there, right? We're starting to kind of collect the data. Now, let's define our superpowers. We all have them. Some of us just haven't identified them yet, right? So brainstorm. What are your strongest skills? How can those skills translate into a personal brand success? How can you use these to elevate and promote your brand? So Levi, if it's cool with you, I'd love to put you on the spot because you've done such an awesome job of what you've done with the YouTube and stuff like that. When you first started that, like right before you blew up, like what, in your opinion, was your strongest skills?
My strongest skills is sales.
Right.
So now that's the thing, is that's what I had to look at. I've been in sales for 20 years. This goes into our whole concept of passive prospecting. I've been in sales for 20 plus years. But the thing is that, again, outside forces, several different times in my life, completely shut me down. And whenever I shut down, my business shut down because I was always dependent on myself and one-to-one sales. And so this is where I had to step back in the same light during the pandemic. Instead of watching Tiger King, I was like, okay, well, how do I researched, I researched during the summer of 2020 to figure out what my next move was. And what I learned is that I've got to scale myself. How do I scale myself? When I started to really figure out and look into video, that's how I saw, video is just sales at scale. So I'm a pretty good salesperson. I just need to actually have my conversations with a camera this time versus individuals. And so that was the mindset and the goal kind of going into it. I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, but that's how I got started.
Oh, hell yeah. And the reason why I teed that up for you, brother, is because I observe and I see you've done such a great job, but you had to start somewhere, right? And so what I'm doing is a little bit different than what you're doing, but at the core of it, we had to identify our skills or our superpowers, and then we began to leverage them and so forth. And so if you guys out there that are trying to identify what your skills are or your superpowers, I would make a list. And if you're still having a little bit of trouble and like, I really don't know what I'm really good at, here's a tip. Send a message to 5 or 10 of the closest people to you in the world and just say, hey, what do you think I'm really good at? And just collect the data. And I guarantee you there will be some overlap. There'll be some commonalities where you could be like, oh, I guess I really am personable, or I really am organized, or something of that nature. And then you can get some momentum from there. As we continue moving forward to building the personal brand, one thing that is really critical, guys and gals, is just the thought-provoking question of what do you want your brand to be? What is the direction? Who do you want to talk to? Who is your audience? What social media platforms are you on? So correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Levi really gained a ton of momentum on YouTube. For me, it was Instagram. And obviously now we both probably do all of them, but you have to start somewhere, right? So pick one that's good for you. And for those of you that are rolling your eyes right now, like, I really don't like social media, I get it. I was there myself. But here's the facts, whether you want to like it or not. You don't have to approve it, but we do have to accept it. Social media isn't going anywhere, and it's an unbelievable opportunity to leverage whatever it is that you have going on. Back in the day, you used to have to like dump hundreds of thousands to marketing and so forth. And yes, today you can still do that, but you can basically get started with relatively no cost just by branding yourself on different social media platforms and then get some momentum. So figure out which platforms that you resonate with, and then I would start to attack. And then obviously, this is probably most important. map out what is the core message that you are projecting, right? Like, what vibe, what signal do you want to give off? When people come across Levi or Craig or someone else, how do you want them to feel? Right? So that's very important. And then you want to obviously be super intentional as you continue on to really double down. And don't worry, like, you don't have to be married to a specific concept. Like, when I first started CLS 2 years ago, I was really big mindset and stuff like that. And of course I still am. But now the core message of CLS and what we do is reinvention, right? Because the way I look at it is, even if I wasn't your cup of tea or glass of whiskey, I know, very hard to believe, but let's just say you didn't even like me. One thing that you couldn't deny is that I totally reinvented myself in the pandemic. I had one career for 13 years, and then I pivoted and started a whole new one with no experience, and it blew up. So even if you didn't love me, that's one thing that you couldn't deny. So CLS is all about reinvention. Reinvention is ready when you are. It's never too late, so to speak. So you really want to gather all these steps, guys. I know that was a lot of information at once, and I imagine we're going to talk about some other things. But if you don't even know where to get started, these are unbelievable clip notes on where to kind of stick your fork in the ground and hit the ground running.
Absolutely. So if anybody has a question or a follow-up to that, either throw it in the chat or come off of mute. Otherwise, we can kind of keep rolling. But I want to kind of also add to that what, Craig said. This is what we've discussed several times, is also try to narrow this down. If you're having trouble finding your superpower, I think, or usually if you've been in the business for quite some time, you probably have a main way of generating business. So that is probably the way you're leaning towards your superpower. Now, if you're not sure what that is yet, I always like to say, figure out what type of person you are. Are you a people person? Are you a reader and a writer? Are you, what was the other one? I always say this, the video person, or, and so reader, writer. Now I'm just slipped it, but there's 4 of them. So reader, writer, video, people person, or reader and writer. So figure out which one of those categories do you fall into. For myself, okay, video person. Okay, so look at all the forms of videos I can go into, or which platform from there: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Which one am I going to be? Because I do believe if you focus on one platform first, ideally, instead of spreading yourself too thin, you want to really dial in one platform first. If you're a people person, does that mean, okay, what type of things can you do in person? You can do open houses, you can do networking events, you can do, PTA meetings, I don't know, school board meetings, you can do HOA, where's all the events or types of things that you can do in person? If you're a reader, telephone person, that was the other one. So if you're a reader and writer, I don't know, maybe it's still very effective to market to people through email, or postcard campaigns. Maybe you could write out a series of emails that can convert. Or are you a telephone person, and who do you want to call? And so once you kind of start to narrow that down, that's going to help you figure out where are you most comfortable, kind of generating business. And then, if you're a phone call person, do you want to call expireds, FSBOs, your sphere, for sell by owners, whatever the case may be? You want to look at those different areas, narrow that down, and then, you can figure out where it is from there. Now, if you've been in the business for some time and you've been generating it through a certain way, like you are the best cold caller on the planet, or you want to move into video, it's like, this is where you double down on your efforts and really start to understand and grow from there. But also, go into deep learning mode over 60 days, what we like to call hyper learning, and study that one, that one thing that you really want to focus on, whether that is FSBOs. We did this on an exercise the other day, pulled up Amazon and typed in FSBO books, for sell by owner books. And there was 15 books on just FSBO marketing. So the information's out there. We just got to, collect it, digest it, and then implement from there. So, Craig, what about, where do you transition from there? So once you've done that, you've established that, what's the next step?
Yeah. So there's one thing that I got to hammer home, right? When it comes to building a personal brand, guys, the most important thing, and this is what I understood when I first started CLS, and it was challenging for me because up until about 2 years ago, I had always been a little bit of like a people pleaser. Like I never really showed my whole cards or my whole hand to the world. I'm just being honest with you guys. But when I stepped into CLS, I said, there's no guarantee that this will work. but I'm making a promise to myself. I'm going to show up as me for the first time in my life, real, raw, authentic. And the right people will gravitate and the wrong people will not. And that's okay. But if this doesn't work out, I'll never be able to live with the fact if I don't show up as me. And so authenticity, guys, is everything, especially nowadays. Like, the space is so saturated, right? Like, if you look online, like, there's a million influencers, coaches, this, that, and the other thing. But I'm pretty sure you guys can agree, or Levi, you definitely can. Like, you can sniff out like who's authentic and who's not in 2 seconds. So authenticity, guys, is everything. You have to be authentic, be genuine. You know why? Because first and foremost, when you show up as the real version of yourself, that gives people an opportunity to actually connect and resonate with you, right? So that means if once in a while you're having a shitty day, right? Or like you just got hit by a car, like I did right before the event in Dallas, thank God physically I'm okay. But the first thing I said when I took the mic on that stage, I was like, I can't even believe this, but I was just hit by a car a couple of days ago, speeding car, hit and run. And like right away, the whole audience was like, oh, wow, holy shit. Like, let me just engage. Like, thank you for being here. And then I went on with the keynote and it was awesome. But being authentic gives people an opportunity to relate to you, to connect with you. And also it displays a superpower, right? Because if you're not being authentic, people will be able to tell. And then you're just going to be like everybody else. So you want to stand out for the right reasons, but ultimately you want to do that by being yourself. And if you're having a limiting belief right now, well, that might turn some people off. You know what? It might. But that's protecting and propelling you. You don't even want those people around. So 100% be authentic. Like, if you went to my Instagram feed, if you guys don't follow me at Craig Siegel _CLS, like, it has a vibe to it. It's like colorful, and whether I'm collaborating with a celebrity or I'm talking about my fiance or my nephew, like, there's a certain vibe to it. It's me, right? And I understand that it's not for everybody, but it's me. And when you step into this type of thing, you have to embrace being authentic. Is it scary? Sometimes. But being vulnerable displays courage. And just like any other muscle, it gets easier the more and more you do it. So I definitely wanted to hammer that home. And Levi, I'm sure you'd agree, brother, is authenticity, guys, is the key. Because if you're not, people will be able to sniff it out in 2 seconds. Yeah. Hope that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And I think, it's something that, for us, we knew we wanted to build a team and also help others do it. But at the same time, it's like we had to prove ourselves first. And so, the great thing is that authenticity can also be coming from, your experience. But this is where, for those that are starting right now, this is why documenting what you're doing is very, very important. And a lot of people get stuck with creating content. And the reality is that, everyone on here is probably creating 100 pieces of content per day. It's just your decision whether you document that or not. So even like right now, this is something that typically, I could have a phone just sitting on the right side in a vertical format, capturing all this, so every time I talk, it may be an hour recording, but if I only talk for 10 minutes total, it gives me like 10 potential reels, so anytime you're working with somebody, talking to a client, if you do any client meetings on Zoom, if you talk to other agents on Zoom, anything like that, think about those 20, 30, 40-minute conversations you're having, that if you capture that in a vertical format, that can easily be chopped up. And so what I think that adds to authenticity is I do believe people this day and age will vet you likely through social media. If they hear about you or, get somebody refers you to another person, they're probably going to say, okay, cool, let me check out their Instagram profile. That's probably usually people's first go-to to see what are you doing on Instagram. So even though it wasn't my primary focus, and my Instagram, you can tell, is not real estate client focused, it's real estate agent focused. And that's the other things. I think you want to be, very direct, like Craig mentioned earlier, right? Know your audience, know who you're talking to. And so, but for our real estate clients, clearly we built out a channel that way, and people can still see that we just published a video on Saturday, and so we're still active on that channel. We're still generating business from that channel. And so it makes it, I think, a lot easier for us to help other people. Or when we, they ask, why should we work with you, to grow YouTube? It's like, well, look, we're doing it. We're doing it every day. Still, we're building a business. We still have a team. We're in production. We're doing those types of things. And so that adds to the authenticity, the credibility side of it.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a stud. So there's that. And also, guys, obviously mindset plays a big role into this stuff, just like anything in life. But yeah, he nailed it. Know your audience and double down on the authenticity. And it's funny because in the beginning, like for me, it was a little scary to really be me. And then what I learned from trial and error is the more weird and strange I would be, because that's really me. Like I have my catchphrase, like if you guys listen to podcasts, whatever the case may be, I show up just as more me. The bigger the audience got, but even more importantly, the more they connected with me and resonated with me. So that was a really big takeaway over the last year and a half, so to speak, is the more authentic I could possibly be, the bigger the connection with the audience.
So let's get into some tactical, Craig, if you don't mind. Like when you were getting started, you said you kind of chose Instagram as your primary platform. Was there anything you did that you recall as far as, you know, anything strategic, or were you the type of person that just started posting content to see what would happen? Or did you kind of say, okay, this is what I wanted to focus on, I'm going to, you know, post this or focus on that? Did you have kind of a plan, or did you just get going?
Yeah, what an awesome question. So I'm a big believer in that clarity follows action. I know a lot of people are waiting for the perfect time, right? The perfect time to have a kid, to get married, to start a business. Sometimes you just got to get inside the arena and doors begin to open. So ironically enough, although Instagram is my favorite right now, I actually started on Facebook, and I probably should have made it a little bit more clear in the beginning. So what I did was I created a private Facebook group called Cultivate Lasting Symphony, which is my brand, CLS, or play on my initials, Craig Landon Siegel. And I think Facebook is actually a little bit overlooked these days. I think it's making a bit of a comeback. So I started a private group because in my thought process was Instagram is obviously great, but let's just be honest, it's not as intimate, right? It's just like a glorified highlight reel and stuff like that. So I created a private Facebook group, and I would go into lookalike audiences like Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Ed Mylett, and ironically, those guys have become some of my best friends now. But I knew that the people that I was looking to attract, my audience, if you will, would probably be around these types of cats. And so I went into those groups, I interacted, I engaged, and I invited them to my group, and I kept doing it. I married the process, divorced the outcome, as I like to say. And this is the beginning of anything really is ramps, right? Like there's a season of grind, also known as a season of harvest, and there's a season of growth. And I was really working hard with putting myself out there, meeting people, getting them into my group, and then delivering, adding value, doing some trainings, dropping some content in the private group. And it created like a safe space, like an intimate container, so to speak. And it really started to blow up. We had a few thousand people in there. And then from there, I brought them all to Instagram by saying, hey, I'm getting the Instagram page going now as well. I'd love for you guys to support me there as well, or if I can add value to you. And then from Instagram, that's really where I found my footing and I really started to explode, so to speak. But the strategy and the thought process is to get in rooms where my lookalike audiences would be, shake some hands, and then bring them along and add value, most importantly, do service. And then they started to love it and really started to create that Hollywood hype. And then when I brought them to Instagram, another strategy that I had was I looked at CLS as like a 10-lane highway. I never wanted to rely upon one lane of income or whatever the case may be. So whether it's speaking engagements, the podcast, my membership community, masterminds, all that stuff. One of them that I was really excited about was my podcast. And so I really put a big emphasis on that, and it exploded. We have 4 million downloads now and just got us a huge book deal. But when I would be very intentional with the guest I would collaborate with, I would then episode and I would reach out to the guests that we had on the show, and I would invite them as a collaborator on Instagram. And the reason why this tool is so beneficial is because if they accept the collaboration, now you're in their feed as well. And so their entire audience now gets to see you. So you get to infiltrate another audience. So they might not have been familiar with you, but now they are. And so I leveraged that opportunity on Instagram in addition to the Facebook, and I just kept growing from there. But to answer your question, I started on the Facebook group, and then I brought everybody to Instagram from there.
Yeah, that's funny. It's so whenever I was trying to get my first 1,000 likes on my business page, on my Facebook business page, which again is more real estate agent. It is real estate agent focused. I would go into groups, and so I don't know if this hack still exists, but somebody could try it. But I would I would join other real estate groups, and some groups, Facebook groups, will about 50-50 will let your business page join versus your personal. So this is the advantage of a business page, is anytime you post inside a group, anybody that likes your post, you can invite them to like your page and to follow your page. And so I would go in, the easiest for me was there's all these real estate meme Facebook groups, which, hey, laughs get a lot of likes, right? And so I would just find some random laughable real estate memes, right? And post them in these real estate groups. And I'd get like 100, 200, 300 likes, just because these groups would have thousands of people in there. And then I could just go down the list, and it literally has a button on there that says, invite to like your page. And so I just go there and click, invite. And 50% of the people would, which were all real estate agents, right, would like my page. And so that's how I was able to build it up to like the first 1,000. Now we do run some ads for our coursework, and so that is going to naturally also get you likes to your business page as well. And so yeah, there's definitely different ways to do that. And I was talking with a top real estate coach the other day because he was like, we don't really promote EXP a lot. We typically attract people that want to work with us through video first. That's really our strategy, because that's kind of like icing on the cake. But even with that, this coach was like, why not just build up this massive following first, and he said, and then you can just invite everybody at one time. He's like, instead of just trying to go through there, kind of like what you're saying, do it one by one, which was kind of also a thought process of, okay, yeah, we're, building up a good following. But again, I don't know, for us, it's not, had to mute somebody there. But for us, it's still secondary. We want to really work with people that we can help through video first. But I like that, how you said, basically provide value, build up that group, and then it's easier to pull that audience, which again, if you focused on one platform first, and build that up, you can learn all these tricks and tips and shortcuts, whatever it is you want to call them. There's ways to do that. And so, but as you do that, it's definitely easier to transfer an audience once that's built up to another platform or into, a new marketing program or something that you want to offer, and that's why providing value so much up front as much as possible. It's like whenever you do have something that you want to monetize, that's the best way to do it, is just to build up a bigger following first, a little bit more. The more patience you can have, usually the better outcome you will have, and if you try to hit people, as soon as you get 10 people in your group or whatever it is, and you try to sell them something, it's probably not going to work out too well. And
I love that you said that, Levi, because so many people that come to me, like, I charge high ticket for coaching and stuff like that. Obviously, at my community, which is more affordable, but everyone wants, like, Craig, I want to be where you're at. And I'm like, all right, but do you want to do what I did? Right. And they're like, well, what does that entail? People want the quick fix, right? They want to get 10 people in and then launch something, but that's not how it works. Like, you have to date your audience a little bit, build the community, form that rapport and that connection where they trust you. And then when it's time to launch something, a course, a product, whatever the case may be, or you want to do business, people will be lining up, right? But you have to have the long game mentality. And just to be clear, that doesn't mean 3 years, but it just means fall in love with the process by adding value, forming that connection. And then when the time is right and you launch something, people will be lining up. But I see so many people make that mistake. I'm so glad that you brought that up.
Yeah. So we'll put a question in here: ideas for groups to join as a realtor. I feel real estate groups would seem to limit other realtors from joining as competition. I'm a member with different networking groups and chambers, but what else? Yeah. From my end, I'll just say, the thing is don't be spammy either, right? So don't join these groups and start to spam them. Provide value. For me, like I said, the real estate memes, if you type in Facebook real estate memes, you'll pop up probably like 10 different groups. They have thousands of people in there, but stick to the topic at hand. Post a real estate meme. Don't go in there and say, by the way, I have a course, or I have a training coming up. And so most of the time that stuff won't get approved or anyways. So it's just a matter of, again, it was just a way to attract audience that way. But And so, yeah, I would just type in what it may be. I think, like I said, humor, things like that, that was just easier to find groups. But you could do this for clients. Like I said, figure out what you want your business page. If you want it to be for real estate clients, there's a lot of like, you'll be surprised, like moving to, now, if it's like a moving to your city, you know, like let's say we did a living in Dallas or found a living in Dallas real Facebook group, they're probably out there. But if I joined it, first of all, they'd probably know who I am and they probably wouldn't let me join anyways. But most of the time those groups are started by other agents. Yes. So if it's something niche like that to capture real estate clients, whoever owns those groups is probably pretty protective of that and probably doesn't let in a lot of, so they may look at your profile, and if they see you're an agent in their city, they may not let you in. But you could start your own moving to or living in Facebook group, and you'd be surprised. You could capture a lot of people, you know, that want to join that. And sometimes they feel better communicating and interacting in Facebook groups than they may on YouTube videos, you know. But so that you just got to figure out and do a little research there. Anything you want to add to that, Craig?
No, I agree with you 100%. You nailed it. And then also, like, in regards to the question I was asked, it's a great question. You just want to have a little bit of like group etiquette, right? Like, you don't want to come in here and like Levi said, look too spammy or look like you're in there for a specific selling reason. Of course, you want to generate business. We don't fault you for that, but you want to just do it with a level of integrity and just, how can I support? How can I add value? And then trust me, you'll attract the right stuff to you. And you see people that come in there and they're lazy and they just want to do business, and like you could spot them out right away. And, you know, it looks like spam, as Levi said. So you just want to be mindful of the way you approach it, for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of mindful, let's talk about some upgrades to your mindset. You know, we're about to move into the new year. Hopefully everybody's already done with their business planning. I think that should have been done in October, you know, business planning for the next year, but there's probably a few that are still hanging on and maybe taking this week, you know, to plan that out. So, you know, this is something that I always talk about. I used to say that the reason agents fail is because they're not effective at lead generation. But I think now what I've learned is that it's really mindset, the first and foremost. And it's as cheesy as some may say that is. I mean, it really is, because the information is out there, how to generate leads. Anyway, again, going back to figuring out what your superpower is, people are experts out there right now at postcard marketing, door knocking, cold calling, you know, calling expireds, calling FSBOs, working Sphere. Again, the information is out there. So yes, lead generation is why agents fell out of the business, or business owners fell out of business, is lead generation. But I think it's probably lack of mindset to acquire that information in the upfront, you know, portion of the business. So what, Craig, would you say is some ways to really upgrade your mindset to really get, you know, focused and strategic, you know, as you either start your business or if you're in a place that you feel stuck right now?
Yeah, great question. And guys, I think mindset's the key to life, right? Because you could have the best strategies in the world, but if you're not available for them, like you're not operating on a high frequency, you don't have a good mindset, none of the strategies is going to work. But on the flip side, you could have no strategies, but you could be really available. You could be ready to rock, self-belief, confidence, resourceful, creative. And then all of a sudden ideas will come to you, or you'll end up in the right room at the right time to hear something. So mindset is everything. And the best way to do that is, first and foremost, I have a little equation that I love, and that's T plus B plus A equals R. So thoughts plus beliefs plus actions equal results. So first and foremost, we have to think of our mindset is, if we're ever feeling off, or if we're not in a good vibe or a good frequency, it always comes back to our thoughts, even if we subconsciously don't realize. So if you're ever not in a good state, be like, wait a minute, I remember that weirdo Craig hopped on here and told me about this. Let me go back in and be intentional with the thoughts that I allow to take up real estate inside my mind. So the 60,000 thoughts that we consume, 90% of them are typically negative, right? So that can sound scary, but now we have an opportunity to be strategic. Now that we have awareness of this, if we're ever feeling off and we have a disempowering thought, which is like hurting our vibe, like I'm not worthy, or before I take the stage, I hope, everyone resonates, stuff like that. Go back in and be like, get out like an intruder. And then I'm going to implement a more positive thought. Like, I am worthy. I can do this. I am resourceful. I do have confidence. I am on fire, whatever works for you. And that empowering thought now creates a more positive belief about yourself and what's possible, right? So where you once saw limitations, like, oh, I want to hop into this space, but it's very saturated. But now if you have positive beliefs, now your thought process might be, it is saturated, but you know what? There's always room for the best, and I'm willing to work, right? So positive thoughts create positive beliefs, and then those obviously translate to more empowering behaviors, your actions, right? And then ultimately brand new results. So whereas you might have had a bad month or a bad week or even a bad day, just knowing this information right now, if you guys take nothing else, take this. Now it should only be down to a bad moment, because yes, we're human, things can affect us. But if we have the ability to say, you know what, I'm going to choose a different thought. Now that thought is going to create a higher vibe, a more empowering, constructive, productive belief. And then you could start to take action, inspired action. And the reality is most people don't get started because they're afraid what people might think, right? Or they think they don't have the resources. They fail before they even begin. But if you can completely eliminate that and just think, instead of what can go wrong, you're not available for that, you only begin to think about what can go right, right? Like it's the same thing, like let's just say you wanted a new watch or a new truck or something like that. Instead of going in there and be like, I can't afford this, now all of a sudden you're like convincing your subconscious that you can't. But what if you were to change that question to, how can I afford that? Now all of a sudden it becomes like exciting. Like, wait a minute, what would I have to do to be able to afford something like that? So that's just being cognizant of your inner game, right? The most dynamic people that I know are those that can dictate their inner experience. So just to be clear, I'm human. I have those moments too, right? And we've been programmed from probably 7 years young by our parents and society to not always be super positive. But as long as we have the ability to be aware that if we're not operating on a high frequency, it's probably our thoughts that are negative, even without us knowing it. Now we go in intentionally and purposeful and implement positive thoughts, now new beliefs, new actions, new behaviors, new results. And it's just like, for any of the dudes in here, or maybe even a girl, but like, I don't know about you, but like back in the day, you ever go to like a bar when you were a little younger and you're just feeling it? I'm on fire. I'm going to approach any pretty girl, whatever the case may be. What if you can channel that state all the time in anything that you do? You can't be stopped, right? Because even if you don't have answers, you're resourceful enough, you're outgoing enough, you can put yourself in the right room at the right time, whatever the case may be. So the key is to get in a high vibe so that you become a vibrational match for all the abundance out there. And the reality is we're actually meant to be abundant, but most people create interference that causes them to think cosine scarcity, right? They cosine, oh, that's not for me. I see what Levi is doing. I can never do that. Or I see Craig made that pivot reinvention. That's not for me. I can't do that. Well, if you continue to cosine scarcity, that's the world you're going to play in. But if you become aware of that and you start to cosine abundance, well, if Levi could do it, I could do it. If Craig could do that, it's only a matter of time before I could do it. Well, then all of a sudden you start thinking about what can go right and you change your entire world. And this stuff probably sounds so simple, but believe it or not, most people don't take this into consideration. If they're having a bad day, they let that rock and that turns into a bad week. And now all of a sudden it's a bad year, whatever the case may be. If you guys take anything from today, take the awareness to be super strategic and intentional with the thoughts that you allow to take up real estate inside your mind. That will change everything for you.
Yep, we're all in the real estate business here, so make sure the real estate the between your ears is the best place to invest, right? That is the best place to invest.
100%. And the best part is it's something we can control, right? And if you guys I challenge you guys today for the next 24 hours, and that's it, 24 hours, right? So till 12:45 Eastern time tomorrow, depending on where you guys are, just think of, God bless you, of every possible thing that happens for you, notice how I didn't say to you, think about what can go right in this situation instead of what can go wrong or scarcity or how is it screwing me up or I can't do that. For 24 hours, just think about the positive in every situation. How can this go right? Or how can I improve this? Or what can I do? And be super optimistic. And then after the 24 hours is up, you have my blessing to go back to being realistic. And I think I'd be willing to predict that tomorrow at this time, you'd realize that what you always thought as realistic was actually a bit pessimistic. And you're probably going to want to stay in that frequency of optimism more often. And when you're in that frequency, now you're creative, you're resourceful, you're solution oriented. And now you're on fire and you really start to get momentum. And momentum is the hardest thing to get and the easiest thing to lose. But once you have it and the wind's at your back, that's when you can quantum leap in all facets of life.
You know, I think it's funny is that I think a very simple exercise for this as well is what I started to do, especially during 2020, is anytime I told myself I'll do that later, I would immediately stop and say, I'm going to do that right now instead. So even like just things around the house and, you know, for me working from home quite a bit, it's easy to walk around and say, okay, well, got to do the dishes or put the dishes away or got to start the load of laundry, you know, all that kind of the house stuff that I wasn't thrilled about doing a bit, but I know if it's done or put away or cleaned up, or as soon as the dishes are clean in the dishwasher to unload it, I would typically find myself doing, oh, I'll do that this evening or tomorrow morning or the next day. And then what I end up doing is start picking up glasses out of the dishwasher, you know, whenever I need them. And you get into this, you start living out of the dishwasher instead. And so just by starting with those simple things around the house, which was anytime I just said, I walked by it and I knew it, I acknowledged it, and I was like, no, I'm just going to do it right now. Plus, kind of an easy way to break up the day a little bit too, especially if you have a full day of working from home. But so you go over there and just knock it out. And so you have to face those types of things. And for me as well, that's where I really learned mindset over 2020. For those that have dug deep into my backstory, which is, I had my whole business went to zero. And so I did feel sorry for myself for, about 2 weeks. And then I realized, okay, I've got to figure something out. I have to, start to implement, I have to move forward. I have to change my mindset as far as instead of, victim to victor, and what is that going to take? And what am I going to figure out right now? And so for me, it was a very tough battle, because a lot of these battles we have to fight on our own. And that's the challenging part too. Yes, you may have a spouse or loved one or someone there as well, but we know sometimes when we get in our little moods that it doesn't matter what somebody says to us. If we want to be in our mood, we just stick there. Instead, we've got to work ourselves out of that and find the solution. And for me, that was the biggest questions I was asking myself, was moving into real estate, is how do I compete? How do I even get noticed in a market that is extremely competitive with people that have been in the business for 15, 20, 30 years? Is there even a gap? Is there a gap anywhere in the market, or have they all been filled, or is it too saturated? But instead of saying, no, that was the case, it was, where do I look? How do I find the gap? Is there a place for me to find my footing, to get my way into the industry, and to actually brand myself sooner rather than later, instead of it taking 5 or 10 years, as a lot of agents I know have worked their tail off to do that, and it's taken that time frame. Now, that's where I believe the opportunity, just like you said earlier, Craig, whether you love social media or not, and if you're at that 40-year-old age range and above, you probably have that love-hate relationship with social media because you didn't grow up with it, wasn't there in high school or college, came around in your late 20s, early 30s, and we thought it was silly, right? We thought it was people bragging and silly cat videos. But then, you see these 20s and 30-year-olds starting to make some money. And now we're going, okay, maybe there's something to this social media thing. So, the deal is that you have to understand these platforms from the producer side versus the consumer side. And whenever you understand a platform from the producer side, that's going to allow you to see the opportunity and where can you, fit that into your business and work with your superpower to attract more of your audience, probably for a lot less money as well. There's definitely ways you can maximize that strategically at no charge, and that's exactly what we were able to build on YouTube. And that's the thing, is that even though I looked at YouTube and that was my last choice, but I didn't stop researching because I went down the rabbit hole of the other platforms, but they didn't really fit my personality. So, when I discovered YouTube, there were still 4 or 5 agents in Dallas, which is nothing. Trust me, if there's 5 or 10 agents in your market on YouTube, that's nothing, compared to everything else. So, but still the #1 channel had 7,000 subscribers when I had 0. And it was just like, what, how can I do this better? Right? How can I be more effective? And if there's just that few amount right now, I gotta, what can I do to actually catch them is to outwork them. So, and to double or triple the output of what they're doing, which is what, we did. And so we've been able to pass all those channels up now. And I would say have become the top channel in Dallas for that. And so still getting reach outs right now, even in this market, whenever people say nobody's reaching out. So we had 47 inbound calls from the channel just in November, at a time whenever people saying everybody's scaling back and relaxing. I mean, who wouldn't want 47 inbound calls in a month of people wanting to work with you, and so that's the opportunity. So so Craig, what would you say would be good to kind of wrap this up? How would you like to close this out? And is there another action item or two you would ask for people to take?
Yeah, first of all, I love being here. Thank you for having me. I love you, buddy. I'm so proud of you and what you're doing. And also there's a lot more similarities between you and I than I even realized. Like, you did YouTube, I kind of started on Facebook and went to Instagram, but also like we both kind of reinvented ourselves in 2020. And guys, I say this very humbly, not to boast, but to show you what's possible. And I don't know so much about all of your background, and I hope we can connect further after this. But look what Levi and myself have been able to do in such a short amount of time. And I think the commonality that we both did, that we really doubled down on, is branding, right? And maybe even at the time, we didn't even realize essentially what we're doing, but we were branding ourselves. Levi on YouTube as the expert in Dallas at this and this, and me in personal development with what I do. And look, you take that long game mentality, you marry the process, you divorce the outcome. So many people are like New Year's resolution oriented, and that puts so much pressure on it. I don't even like resolution. Just set the intention, right? And be available for all the abundance to come, and then just fall in love with the process. And it doesn't take that long if you're committed, right? And you have a good mindset. Remember, you be strategic with your thoughts, and you're optimistic, and you're thinking about what can go right. Not something, but everything can change for you guys, whether you're 40, you're 75, or you're 25. You can really make 2 things happen at once. You can combine a hybrid of making a massive impact and also making a very lucrative living. I mean, what's better than that? And in my opinion, like Levi and me, like, this isn't even work to us. Like, we genuinely love to add value, to show up, to give you guys strategies, the personal branding, the mindset, all this stuff. And we just really want you guys to run with it. And the best time to start, as I put in the chats, is today, right? Just start, even just the mindset paradigm shift of beginning to think of yourself as a brand, right? Now, all of a sudden, you begin to be a little more strategic. You get to have fun with it. Think about it. Do you want a logo? What are your colors? What kind of vibe do you want to give off of? And then just remember, always stay positive and think about what can go right. And if you're ever feeling off, just like an intruder, get the hell out and implement the positive thought with the new belief, the new habits, and the new results, and so forth. And it's a tribute to you, Levi. Obviously, your vibe attracts your tribe. You guys were super engaged, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Any last minute questions? Let's see, we definitely got some good comments. People love the energy. Love you, Craig. Let's see. Yeah.
And I'd love to do a little giveaway if it's okay with you guys. Whoever had the best takeaway from today, shoot me a text, and my team will send you out a custom CLS journal. Journals are great. If you journal already, great. If you're not, if you're always skeptical about it, trust me, it's something very powerful, especially like towards the new year, just to set the tone for the business going forward. And also on the texting community, we totally free. We do inspirational texts a couple times a week, personal branding strategies and all that stuff. If it's okay with Levi, I'll drop the number in the chat, and we'd love to give a giveaway for the best takeaway. But please, guys, any questions that you might have, the only way you lose is if you don't ask.
Is that you want them to text you or shoot you a DM?
Yeah, I'll put the number in the chat. Totally free, guys, to sign up. It's awesome.
Yep.
And shoot us the best takeaway, and we'll send you a custom journal.
There you go. And I'm gonna put,
if anyone, I'd love to hear right now, just from one person, what was a good takeaway for you guys, something that hit home.
yeah, and I threw your Instagram in there as well. So if y'all can give Craig a follow on Instagram, that's always.
Hell yeah. Thank you, brother. And we'll go, if you guys listen to podcasts, we have really inspirational, some of the world's biggest celebrities and business moguls, entrepreneurs, real estate moguls talking about entrepreneurship and stuff like that. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, the CLS experience.
Yeah, so Paul's got your algebra formula. That's T plus B plus A equals R.
Hell yeah, Paul. Great one. Thoughts plus beliefs plus actions equal results.
And
You dig?
real quick question, morning ritual. Do you have a morning ritual?
I have a routine. You know, I think that the all-time greats, and I've interviewed some of the world's greats, and what a commonality that I find, and I imagine Levi does this as well, is the best of the best do the things even when they don't feel like it. And how do you do that? You revert back to your habits and rituals. So like, for example, every day when I wake up, I journal a little bit. I put together my to conquer list for the day, or a to-do list, whatever you want to call it, all while I'm listening to something inspirational, whether it's a podcast or an audio book. And then I pray a little bit, do a little meditation, and then I work out. And I do this all probably before most people wake up. And then I'm off to the races. And I feel like I already have an edge. I've already accomplished so much. So I do that 7 days a week. It just makes me feel good. I get a lot done. And ultimately, it's distraction free at that time of the morning. And like I said, it gives me an edge. So I do that every single day. And then I already have momentum.
Very good. Let's see. Oh, and so that's something else. Yeah, just try that little trick too. You know, when you're around the house, as soon as you tell yourself something, I'll do that later, or I'll do that at a different time. Just do it right then. Start with that, because that's what's going to also help. You know, so small steps as you build up to whenever you say, well, I really don't want to write out this email campaign, or I don't want to record this video right now. It's like, nope, that's the time that you need to do that. And
100%.
so,
Yeah.
so you got the number. The number is 917-634-3796. So that's 917-634-3796.
Hell yeah, Bet. Is that Bet or Betty? Either way, is awesome takeaway right there.
Thank you.
Yeah, hell yeah. You guys, 2023 is going to be massive for all of you. The only thing that you're required to do is take some action. You guys have a lot of information from this call, right? This is more information than I had when I first got started. I imagine same for Levi. You know, me and Levi have done it now. And what works today isn't necessarily what worked 10 years ago. The landscape changes. So this is awesome information, but it's only, they say knowledge is power, but it's really only potential power. It's what you do with it.
Yeah. And back to Craig's point too, I mean, really good examples. Yes, would, you know, where we're at today, 2 years later, is way farther than expected, you know, but that also came with consistent disciplined behavior, right? You know, not missing any week, you know, still publishing, still being active, looking how to grow and expand and how to put in the right systems and processes. And it's all a building process. You know, it didn't start out to what we have right now. You know, it started with me, and that was it, just making some videos. And then, you know, Travis came into the picture. And then as we got, you know, the first call, and it went from one call, you know, it went from 2 transactions to 3 to 5 to 7 to 9, you know, and so that, but it was also, as we started to, you know, do more, again, putting the right processes, people and systems in place so that, you know, we could scale things. We didn't have to duplicate things ourselves. That is just a matter of, it's the building process. It's the old eat the elephant one bite at a time, you know, and that's the thing, is if you just look at the elephant, you're always going to get overwhelmed and start to play those mind games with yourself and start to put stuff off. So it's like, nope, I just got to start with the toe, just got to eat that toe first. Even though nobody likes to eat an elephant toe, but once you get past that, the rest of it's delicious, so it's really, no, but it is just a building process. But the thing is that 6 months, 12 months is going to come and go. And in 6 months or 12 months down the road, you're going to say one of two things. You're either going to say, I wish I had, or I'm glad I did, and that's the only two things we can ever say once we get to that point. And the thing is that, you think about what's happened the last year or 2 years, or when you hear specific events and you're like, wait, Michael Jackson died 15 years ago. And you're like, holy cow, that's been 15 years. I mean, that is a huge reality check, I think, whenever, how time flies, whenever some of these things in bed and say, man, that just seemed like yesterday. So, the thing is that it's time is moving and really it's just everyday actionable steps that do lead up to, the end goal, and not even necessarily the end goal, but just to the bigger goal, because I think we're always going to have moving goalposts and keep working towards what, bigger and better things. And I think most people, I don't think we're really ever designed to retire. I think you're typically going to want to be working on something all the time. But the thing is that, you just got to take it day by day.
I got to hop off, guys, but thank you so much for having me. I look forward to connecting with you all after. Levi, you're incredible, brother. I love and respect you, and let's chat a little bit later today. I hope you guys got something out of this.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for joining us, Craig. And so thank you guys, and we'll see you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for joining us on today's podcast. If you're interested in partnering with us to access our YouTube course and coaching at no cost, schedule a call at passiveprospectingpartner.com.